Hi guys, welcome back. We're still in the month of March, which means that your ECU 15 code for 15% off your order at laurenrich.net is still good. So go check out the Get Unfucked mugs and shirts. I had enough requests that my internet guy and I finally put something together for you. So hopefully there will be something you like. One of the questions we got when I was in North Carolina was, and we'll say it's from the Cowboy so he knows who he is. So the Cowboy presents this question that I'm thinking was medically retired after an enlistment or two at least the E5 to E6 range. He reported that he still gets phone calls at 3 in the morning from guys who are suicidal. They are actively in crisis in the moment. He said he felt obligated to take the phone call, which I can't blame him. I would too. But one question I asked was whether or not they were under the influence, because anytime we're under the influence of drugs or alcohol, things are always worse. We're not making sound decisions, of course, which is why we call it under the influence. But he wanted to know, what can I do for them in that moment of crisis at 3 o'clock in the morning? And unfortunately, I did not have a good answer for this because I just don't think there is a good answer for this. If it's to the point where your buddy is already locked and loaded to make that decision at 3 o'clock in the morning, then you're really only left with a couple of choices. One is to call the local police department. The other is to call a closer, geographically closer friend or family member to go over and help, especially because this guy had people, I'm just going to say all across the nation. They were not easily accessible to him at 3 o'clock in the morning. So thinking about that process, if they are only calling in crisis, that means that it really comes down to a behavioral issue for those veterans who are not willing to seek help other than that 3 o'clock in the morning phone call. The bad part is that we cannot ask our buddies or force our buddies to go get help. We can only encourage them, and we can only say what has worked for us and what has not worked for us. There are peer supports out there who can help people and walk people through that process. But again, that's not a 3 o'clock in the morning crisis type item. So the long and short of it is that in order to better help your friends, it needs to happen before 3 o'clock in the morning. They need to go engage in treatment or services before they're in crisis. Once we're to that point, we're only left with limited options, like we said before. So if it's something that you feel like you have to do in addressing the obligation, I would really challenge you and think about whether or not this is creating codependency for you, how exhausting it is for you to answer the phone call at 3 in the morning, what you can do to better take care of yourself, and even seeking guidance or assistance in enrolling in a peer support program or going to see a provider yourself. So please keep that in mind. There's always the Veterans Crisis Line. Even though I'm not a huge fan of it, it is still available. Your local emergency room or police department is always the place to go. But boy, if we can get it before the 3 o'clock phone call, that is what will make the difference. So lots of good thoughts to all of you who help those friends at 3 o'clock in the morning. Take care. So part of my job is to help you all get unfucked. But if you're curious about how fucked you actually are, you can go online and take the FUBAR assessment at laurenrich.net.